You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's Monday. This is Toronto Sports Rush. That means, of course, I'm joined by Pierre McGuire for McGuire Monday. Pierre, we're going to get to the playoff action in just a second here because it was a fantastic weekend, but we have to start with Auston Matthews because last week in a press conference, when asked about his future with the team, there was a lot of humming and hawing, but there was no secure answers. He was very non-committal. Is it time for him to move on?
I don't think so. I think they got to wait to see who the decision makers will be in Toronto. I think he has to see and hear what the plan is going forward. Will Craig Berube be back? Won't he be back? Who are the line mates they're thinking about playing him with? I think Austin's earned that right to ask those questions. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree with the fact that he's got that right to do it, but I think he's been a pretty darn good player for a long period of time. And one of the big things that affected this Toronto Maple Leaf team, and I'm going to beat it up again, is the loss of Mitchell Marner. And they never found a way to recover from that. And so for Auston, I think he's right to ask, what's the plan going forward? Because, look at the success Bobby McMahon had out in Seattle. I mean, you're like, whoa, how many guys are they going to take off the team? So I think they've got to wait until they hire somebody or some more than one person and what they're going to do with the coaching staff going forward. And then I think Auston will have a better idea.
Pierre, there's a lot of negative energy around the way he responded to those questions, but I'd like to present to you and to the viewers at home, there is a second side to this coin where this man's been in this media market long enough. He might know the best thing right now is to kind of keep his mouth shut and keep this in the front office, keep these discussions behind closed doors and be professional about this and be the captain of this team and not let things leak. Why tilt your hand when you don't know what's going to be discussed? This might actually be the best way to negotiate this.
If I were the Leafs, I would hire you, Kyle, to come in and give a press conference with the people that are part of the team about how to control information and wisdom. One of the biggest problems in Toronto, because it is that massive Toronto hockey media market, is leakage. Everybody wants to look good in the media, so they're going to leak thinking that there's a quid pro quo. You leak to somebody, they're going to write nice things about you, and eventually that's going to lead to a bigger job for you. I think part of what got a lot of people maybe questioning what Auston did is he didn't leak. And those guys don't like that if they don't get leaks. And so they're going to make it kind of a bad situation for him. So that's just part of it. I don't care what they write about me. I don't care what they say about me. I've been through the gamut for 37 years. I don't really care. He's a fine player. I don't know him as well as a person. The first time I met him, he was at USA Hockey. I broke down tape with him on him with Donnie Granato, and I said, I coached Ronnie Francis. This kid is Ronnie Francis with way more speed. And he's kind of turned out to be that player, to be honest with you, maybe a little bit better. Ronnie's a Hall of Famer. Ronnie was a tremendous player. And that's, all I can say is Austin's a really good player.
Auston is one of the all-time great Maple Leafs, whatever happens here on out. Another all-time great, Matt Sundin, is reportedly being interviewed for a job in hockey operations, Pierre.
That's great. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but here's what I would caution Matt. It sounds great and it's really sexy.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot different than being a player in the National Hockey League. And I don't think people understand when you take on a responsibility like that and you want to be successful at it, you are like a doctor. You are on call 24/7, whether you like it or not. And when you go out on the road scouting, you're not staying in Four Seasons and Ritz-Carltons and the nice hotels. You are staying whatever's available. So I don't want to belittle any hotel chains, but I will tell you that most of us that have been doing that job, we've stayed in some hotel chains you may not have ever heard of, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, it's a bit different. If he wants to do it and do it at a high level, good for him. But I would just caution on Matt's and everybody else. It's not like what everybody thinks. It's a little bit harder.
Well, Pierre, I'll say this. With certainty, I've had my best sleeps at Ritz-Carlton's, but I've had way more fun in a Motel 6. But sometimes children watch this show, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. Now, and the other thing for him to understand, too, if you want a job in hockey operations, this is not walking in at the end of heart surgery to stitch things up and clean up the mess. The chest cavity's still open. This team needs a lot of work. And I'm not questioning what he would bring to the table, but this might not be the best hockey operation jobs to step into right now for someone like him.
It's so well said, and I agree with you. Again, Match is an iconic player. He was a first overall pick by Quebec. He's a tremendous player everywhere he's ever been. He's a gold medalist. He's obviously never won the Stanley Cup. But I think the one thing that's really apparent about him, he does have passion for hockey. I'm actually supposed to see him in 2 weeks over in Sweden, so I don't know what's going on.
Get him on the show, Pierre. We want to talk. We want to talk to him.
But anyways, all that being said, Toronto's got. I don't think anybody that cares about hockey would turn down the Toronto Maple Leafs job.
Yeah.
I think what matters is how it's perceived by ownership and upper management in terms of what your game plan is, and will they support your game plan? Because if they think there's not a lot of heavy lifting that has to happen, then that's fundamentally flawed. And eventually it's not going to work. But if they can wrap their head around, we got some work to do here, then I think it could work.
All right, Pierre, let's move on to the hockey teams that are still playing because, of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs started over the weekend. And, man, we saw some really good hockey, Pierre, but we're starting in Buffalo because what happened in that building in the first playoff game in 15 years last night was absolutely electric.
I would have loved to have been on Chippewa Street last night after the game.
Baby.
And one of my favorite places is just off of Chippewa Street called Gabriel's Gate. And I would have loved to be hanging out at Gabriel's Gate back in the day when everybody in the league would love to be a Buffalo 8 o'clock start Friday night. After the game, you all went to Gabriel's Gate, the Sabres and the visiting team. Everybody would congregate, you eat wings, you drink beer, and you tell stories. That doesn't happen anymore, obviously, because now teams charter out. But Buffalo is an amazingly passionate hockey market. I'm so happy for the people in Western New York, from Rochester all the way to Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm so happy for those people. In my college life as a player and as a coach, I played a ton of games there. I coached a ton of games there. In my NHL life, I can't even count the number of nights I've been in Buffalo. So happy after 15 years, Cal. 15 years.
15 years.
They got to win. They got to win in their first playoff series in 15 years. I'm thrilled for them.
Yeah, and, for a young team that, functionally they outperformed expectations this year. They established themselves as an elite team, but they established themselves as an elite regular season team. Mm-hmm. Is there a better way to win a first playoff game by overcoming adversity? Because a 6-1 win doesn't teach you much, but coming back in the third period with that level of resilience, playing tougher towards the end of the game, showing you can play with grit, that has to be the best way for them to take this first playoff win.
Oh, man, what a good way to look at it. I totally agree. Think back to the first 17 games of this season for the Buffalo Sabres. Everybody wanted the GM fired. He did get fired, Kevin Adams. Everybody wanted the coaching staff fired. They didn't fire him. One of the smart things that Pagulas did, they let these guys figure it out and fight through it. They understood that an NHL season wasn't determined after 17 or 25 games. It's determined after 82. They found their way to get back into the race and make themselves relevant because they stuck together through those first 17 games when it was really dark and dingy and bad. That helped them come back last night. You are so spot on, Kyle. That's the first thing I thought of last night when I was watching this comeback led by Tage Thompson. It was a thing of beauty. It was fantastic. How about the athletic? You're a big human. Look at the athleticism of that guy, the quickness of that guy, the skills of that guy. And I know everybody's going to say Jarmo Kekalainen did this and Jarmo Kekalainen did that. Here's one thing he didn't do. He did not acquire Tage Thompson. That was Jason Botterill and Randy Sexton. Those guys will never get credit for that acquisition. They got pilloried. When they made that deal with St. Louis for Ryan O'Reilly. But you know what? It's worked out unbelievably well for the Buffalo Sabres.
And I'm so happy for Lindy Ruff as well. It was great to see him walk off the ice victorious last night, or walk off the bench victorious, rather. Let's move on, Pierre, because it was an interesting weekend for favorite teams. Win or lose, they were all pushed to the brink or pushed past the brink, of course. And I'm going to skip right to Slavkovsky notching a hat trick of power play goals to sink the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 1. This Montreal Canadiens team is for real.
They're for real. There were 7 goals scored in that game last night. 5 of them were on the power play. 3 of them were from Juraj Slavkovsky. And here's the biggest thing. If you look at the 3 goals, one was a one-timer from the right-hand side of the ice for the Canadiens. One was a one-timer in the bumper position. Great feed by Cole Caulfield. The third one was an awesome feed from Lane Hudson to Juraj Slavkovsky on the left-hand side of the ice, and he beat Andrei Vasilevsky long side. To be able to do that, 3 different ways of scoring a power play goal in one game is phenomenal. The Canadiens are for real. Tampa better stop taking penalties. They better stop putting Montreal on the power play. And I think the biggest thing that people don't realize, when Tampa tries to turn it into a track meet, Montreal can match them and maybe take it up another notch, and they're not used to that. They're not used to that in Tampa.
They certainly aren't, Pierre. And we saw, of course, the Minnesota Wild go into Dallas's building and absolutely strap the boots to them 6-1. Dallas's eyes better be wide open right now because you discussed this before. This Minnesota Wild team is one of the elites in the NHL.
And they're nasty. I don't care what anybody says. The Fidolino brothers, I love those kids to death. Nick and Marcus are phenomenal kids, but they're tough as nails. This Yakov Trenin, he's not a nice guy to play against. He might be the nicest guy away from the rink. He's a nasty piece of business. You look at this Jacob Middleton on the back end. You just go look at their team. This Brock Faber, all these guys, they're big, they're physical, they're fast, and they are a whole lot of nasty. Joel Eriksson Ek, pumping goals in. He's used to be a shutdown guy. You look at the creativity of all the Kaprizov. This team is good. A lot of people didn't think Wallstead was going to be able to do the job. He did a nice job when he was tested in that game, especially early by Dallas. Dallas better not lose game 2 on Monday night, because if they lose game 2 on Monday night, I think it's going to be a very short series.
It could be very short, Pierre. Ottawa goes into Carolina and gets shut out 2-0. Though the game was close, we did see the levels of depth of this Carolina team able to keep Ottawa off the scoreboard and play their game for 3 periods.
Great points, all of them very fair. Here's the biggest thing about Ottawa. Stop trying to play macho. Start playing smart. Stop the macho stuff. Start playing smart. Use your speed. They have more depth than Carolina has down the middle. If you look at it with Stützle, and then you go down to Cousins, and then you go down to Pinto, and then eventually you get to Eller. And don't forget, you got Claude Giroux, and you also got Ridley Gregg. Those are 6 elite centermen. 6 of them. They got 6 guys that could play down the middle. Stop trying to be tough guys in Ottawa and start being hockey players, and you got a chance to win the series.
Indeed, Pierre. The Los Angeles Kings pushed the Colorado Avalanche to the brink. And, you can't be surprised by this, right? Because we saw right across all the games this weekend, the style of play changes immediately when you go in the playoffs. Games get tighter. Teams go harder for 60 minutes. I mean, Colorado's a better team here, but these Kings are no pushover. They're not.
Doughty played really well. He's going to push and shove. He's an older guy. I love the way Adrian Kempe played last night for LA. I thought he was really good. Face-offs, believe it or not, were probably more friendly for LA than they were for Colorado, which was a bit surprising. They're going to have to find a way to control Nathan McKinnon and the speed that he and Nate just play the game at. And I don't think you want to get into a slugfest with Colorado if you're LA. You just got to try to limit their speed and don't give them easy minutes on the power play. I know their power play wasn't particularly good during the course of the regular year, but it did get better near the end. And after the first period, I thought their power play actually gained a lot of momentum, talking about Colorado. So you got to be really careful if you're LA. But I think DJ Smith, who's I'm going to qualify this too. He's a very good friend of mine. I worked with him in Ottawa. He's done a masterful job with that team. He says, I want my team to be more physical going into game 2. They'll be more physical, but they got to be physical without taking penalties.
And in one of the better games of the weekend, in my opinion, of course, the Flyers went in and defeated Pittsburgh on the road. It's a good hockey game. Again, another absolutely electric third period of action. That series is probably going to be tight. I can see it going 6 or 7.
You know what's amazing about this series? I had the honor of coaching Rick Tocchet when we won a Stanley Cup in Pittsburgh, and he was a Flyer when he came over to our team. And I've always thought the world of Rick. He eventually became an assistant coach in Pittsburgh. One of his big pet projects was working with Sidney Crosby. You saw what they did to Crosby in game 1. They got him frustrated. They were in his face. Travis Sanheim was bugging him the whole game. Travis Konecny was bugging him the whole game. I see Tocchet's fingerprints all over this series. That being said, if Pittsburgh gets to their game, they're a little bit like Ottawa. Just play your game. Don't try to play Philly's game. Just play your game. And if you do that, you'll probably have some success.
And Pierre, I purposely saved this game for the last of the weekend recap because, the Vegas Golden Knights doubled up the Utah Mammoth 4-2. But the big story here is really the job Tortorella has done since taking over that team. He's now 8-0-1 as the head coach. Yeah. And we talked about this towards the end of the season of how difficult the job is in to step in. I mean, this team they were fighting for a playoff spot when he stepped in. And he couldn't have managed this any better. And really, there's only so much you can influence. You switch up the lines, which he has done. He's changed things up. But this team is reignited under his leadership.
Couldn't agree more. And you couldn't have said it better. And so, Kyle, the biggest thing I think with John, he's brought enthusiasm. He's brought professionalism. And I think John learned a lot. One of the things I tell people all the time, if you're going to be a studio analyst or you're going to broadcast games in the NHL before your next coaching job, compile information, get as much as you can, pay attention to trends, study what other coaches are doing, because you don't have a horse in the game anymore. You can look at it with an unbiased opinion. And I remember talking to Barry Melrose about this before he took the Tampa job. I had long talks about this with other guys who did TV and then they went back. And I would just say you could become a lot better as a hockey executive or a hockey coach if you work on TV and you study without being biased. And I think Torts did that.
And Pierre, it's information we'll never receive. I certainly won't ever receive it, but I would love to know when he got the first phone call and how much time he had in advance to gather that information, because I don't think it was 24 hours. I imagine it was like, hey, if we need you here in a week or 10 days, what do you say to that, pal? Here's a whole bunch of binders of information we just UPS'd over to your house. Yeah. Okay, so the weekend... if you're a hockey fan, and I mean a lot of people on this channel, I'd like to think they continue to watch into the playoffs, a lot of our viewers, because you should. The hockey's great. There's still another Canadian team that will kick things off, and the last series to open is, of course, tonight. Anaheim and Edmonton will be kicking things off out west.
So Edmonton's got the advantage over Anaheim. There's no question, Kyle. I think you know that. I know that. Most of our viewers will know that. Here's the one thing that I like about Anaheim. Joel Quenneville's their coach. He's not going to be intimidated by Chris Knobloch, number one. Number two, they'll be as prepared as possible because of the coaching staff that they had, a lot of veteran guys. Number three, this is really important. Chris Kreider's there. Jacob Trouba is there. Alex Killorn is there. They've got Johnny Carlson now. They've got older guys that have been through the playoff wars, and that's going to teach Leo Carlson. That's going to teach Mason McTavish. That's going to teach Ian Moore. That's going to teach Troy Terry. They got guys internally that can be mentors for a lot of these great young players that they have. I don't think they're going to beat Edmonton, but I think it's going to be a lot like what Montreal went through last year when they lost to Washington in the first round. Those Canadians learned so much from that series. This will be huge for the development of the Anaheim Ducks going forward, and I think Edmonton should win the series. And if they do, we'll see how it works out in the next round, but I think they should win this series.
And you know what, Pierre, like this is Bet Rivers, of course, and I'm looking at some numbers here right now, and I'm just saying, there's no goalies in the series that made .900 on their save percentage, and these two teams like to score. So if you're looking for some late night over picks, this might be the series to take a look at it, because Connor McDavid and crew, they're going to give up goals and they're going to score a pile. So I have a feeling this could be one of the higher scoring series we've seen in some time.
You're so spot on. And the other part is it looks like Draisaitl will be back to play.
Yeah.
And if he's back to play, that's a big problem for Anaheim matchup wise. You know, I'm looking at their lines the other day as I was prepping, and I see Ryan Nugent-Hopkins playing on the third line for Edmonton, and I'm going, oh my gosh. On most teams in the league, he's a first or second line player, either as a center or as a winger. So that just shows you the offensive depth of the Edmonton Oilers, and that's going to be a bit of a problem for Anaheim.
It is, Pierre. 4 games on the slate tonight, of course. Philadelphia is back in Pittsburgh, Ottawa, Carolina, Minnesota, Dallas, and, of course, the game we just spoke about, Anaheim, Edmonton. I would say, you've got Ottawa's and Dallas is back up against the wall. They need to grab a win here, I think, to even the series. Dallas could be in big trouble if they lose the first two at home against Minnesota. Any other notes, Pierre?
No, I think what your point about Ottawa, the only thing I'll say about Ottawa, I wouldn't worry as much about Ottawa if they lose game 2. You're never in trouble in a playoff series till you lose on home ice.
That's right.
And the one thing I'll say about Ottawa, I lived there, I worked there in 2 different parts of my life. Those are crazed hockey people and smart hockey people. And I think the one thing Ottawa will have going into game 3 is they'll have huge momentum from their fan base in the city. They may not have that after game 2, but I think going into game 3. So this series is probably going to be determined by what happens in game 3 in the Ottawa series. I think other series are different. Like if Dallas loses tonight on home ice, that's 2 losses in a row. They're in deep, deep, deep trouble.
Yes, and as you said earlier, Pierre, turn down the machismo and stick to the chalkboard and just play the game. They have a good system in place there. They're well coached, and they have a good roster. We'll see. Pierre, thank you so much. I can't imagine what's going to happen over the course of the next week in the playoffs, but we'll run it all down next Monday.
I can't wait. I'm so pumped to do this with you, Kyle. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.